Greetings, friends. Your cartoonist pal Stan here with What Happens on Wednesday? Brand new episode of 50 Years in the Dungeon, the show that I'm doing just to celebrate tabletop role playing games in all its formats, and it's now more than 50-year history. And this week, I'm going to be doing another work in progress episode. In fact, I'm going to pick up right where I left off last time. If you were here last week, I was working on my cartoon homage. I should know what I worked on, right? My cartoon homage to the cover of the Titan City Chronicles Mutants Masterminds adventure, The Lost Library, which I began while I was interviewing Alex Thomas, the editor, the designer of that adventure, and one of the developers of Mutants and Masterminds for Green Ronin Publishing. It was a fun conversation with him, and it's a fun drawing to work on. Now, last week I picked up and was doing coloring, which is something I don't normally do on the show. It's the most time-consuming part of creating one of these drawings. And I got through what's called laying out the flats, and that's about it. No, yeah, that's how far I got last week, and I didn't get very much further. I'll show you both where we left off last time and what what I did manage to do in the interim, which, as I say, isn't much. And then we'll go on and do some more. I think it's reasonably close to being finished. It's possible we could finish during the course of this show. We, by really meaning me, but you're here helping me, so you can take some credit too. Hello, Michael in chat. Good evening, sir. You were just watching Artemis? Yeah, I was too. Very excited about that. And to the moon. It was, you know what? My heart was in my throat during the liftoff. I didn't really expect that. You know, of course, it's always a tense and dangerous part of any space mission, but I was not expecting, while watching it, to be quite as nervous as I was watching it go. But it turned out great. So far. Up to this stage in the mission. Very excited. I have vague memories of the original Apollo missions. I have a memory of watching on TV Neil Armstrong's, not really understanding what it is I was watching. I was not quite 5 years old when that happened, but I do remember seeing that in the TV in our den. Everyone gathered around, a lot of the adults very excited. Seemed pretty exciting. Yeah, you were 5 months old? Okay, so you probably have even fewer memories than I do. I also remember Apollo, what was it, 16? Apollo, the very last one, 14? I don't remember. Well, I don't remember the numbers. As much as I love that, I don't remember the number of the Apollo missions very well. I know it's not 13, and I know it's not 11. But yeah, I remember the splashdown. I remember the big to-do of this was the last mission that was planned for us going to the moon, and all the talk about we'll be back. Looks like we're going back finally. And then the talk. Even then, I remember the talk about the shuttle years before it actually happened. And waiting. So, yeah. So exciting day, a very exciting day for space, for us, for humanity. Maybe, I was listening to some of the pundits talk about, or a former astronaut talk about the hope that this maybe can be something that is a beacon we can all rally around in these very divisive times. But let's not talk about that. Okay, let me see. Let me grab my stuff here. Um, and I'm going to prepare my screen. I'm going to flip over to my iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and the Apple Procreate. These are the tools I use. They are not sponsored. There are no sponsors on this show. Not yet. Over 2 years running, still no sponsors. Doesn't mean there never will be. Okay, so let me see. If I switch over here, you can see. This is where we finished last time, right? I had done the drawing. I came in with the drawing and the inking done. Did the coloring. This is what's called the flats layer. Just as you can see, all the colors are just big areas of a single flat color. And the next stage is where I go in and add highlights, shadows, and details, and little bits, in some drawings, special effects, just things to make the characters seem a little more three-dimensional. Three-dimensional? Yeah. I mean, not really. This is definitely flat cell style animation, but you want to give the idea that they exist in more than just a single flat color. So what I did was, for each of the characters, I started going back to add a shadow and highlight area. So for our guy in the front, that's what it looks like. Goes from just flat colors to having those shadows and little bits of detail to help mark some of the, give it a feeling of rising and falling, a little bit of three-dimensionality, feeling of being alive in its own world. The monsters look more real than the humans. Well, yeah. They're more difficult to do to kind of do the cartoonish shorthand on, because they aren't a thing that your brain automatically understands. So you have to feed more detail to it to get that. All right, so that is what the guy looks like with the shadows. I also did the woman. I did her shadows, and that's how she came in after I add the shadows on, and gives them more of a textured feeling, more of feeling like part of it. I didn't get to the monsters, the mummified baboons. I'm really not 100% sure what they are. So I need to do them, and then we're going to do the background for this piece, which is going to be, we look at the original here, you can see that the background there's not a lot of detail to it. So I haven't put even any sketches in. I figured that it'll be best to wait until the characters are done before I start to try and figure out what the background's going to be. Now, let me make that bigger again. So now the challenge here is in this, they're really in the background shadows. They're very dark and shadowed. And you can see with just looking at the two that you can see on screen right now, I actually have given more detail and more color and texture to my cartoonified version, because I'm not going to have that whole depth and shadowiness to the same extent. I may fiddle around with that when they're done, but I'm going to color them like this, like in this level of detail, presuming you're going to see most of it. Michael says, I thought the computer visualization that kept on screen during the Artemis launch was kind of boring. It was, but I've seen it. They do that a lot. I saw that watching a bunch of the Blue Origins and X rocket, it's SpaceX launches. There's a lot of the computer generated imagery they show, so you can see what actually is going on the rocket. I think it's boring. It's a little boring because really it's just going straight. What's exciting is it's moving through space. If you're just going to show the the hardware, not a lot's going to happen. But yeah, it could have been. I suppose if they were interested in making sure the the show was as entertaining as possible, they could have put a little more money into making those computer visualizations a little sexier. All right, all right, here we go. I want to dive in because I would really love to finish this tonight. Um, I do not have a co-host today. It's just me. I'll try and keep my eye on what's going on in the chat and try to, uh, you know, keep y'all entertained. All right, so I take those two layers out, and we see that's all we've got. Of course, the guy on the right, all that really blank area is what's hidden behind the main figure. So I really didn't worry about it. All right. Now I'm just going to look at this and not worry about matching the darkness of the final piece. I'll figure that out with an effect. I'm going to color these like they were just going to appear like this. So I grab the color of the fur, and I want a darker version of that. Let's see how that looks. Am I on the right brush? No, I'm on the wrong brush. All right. Let's see. That's a good amount of darkness. Now, for the other two, I was presuming the light was coming from this direction, and so I'm going to continue that with these. These baboon characters. So yeah, April Day, April Fool's Day. Anyone have? I've got a mixed feelings about April Fool's Day, mainly because so many people do it badly. In general, I like it, and it's a important part of my family traditions. Uh, Center around April Fool's Day. We've got an ongoing family gag that's been going since probably about the same year as the Apollo mission, probably from when I was about 5 years old, and that's still going. I like a good harmless prank or April Fool's joke. I guess I don't like pranks. I like an April Fool's joke. Um, to my mind, a prank involves. And I'm gonna sneeze. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Yeah, well, a prank involves a target and trying to not just uh, do something that's funny, but to fool someone in kind of. I guess to me, a prank involves some kind of embarrassment. Uh, So, not so big on pranks of any kind, but I do like a good joke. I like I the in our modern internet age, since this the growth of the World Wide Web and all the kind of funny things that people and companies can do on April 1st. Uh, there have been some really good ones, but they're the ones that I think the ones that are best are the ones that you can look at and immediately know, okay, this is a joke, right? If you believe it, well, I guess they did a good job, but in the end, no one gets hurt. No one gets hurt or too terribly disappointed. Promising. I've seen a lot of publishing companies talk about products that don't wind up getting done, which is I think one of the perfect kinds of pranks. Here's a thing. We're announcing this brand new product that's ridiculous, and of course it's not happening. It's just a joke. Remember one time before the Monty Cook games, back when Monty was publishing with his previous company, now Havoc, they did one where it said that Monty had changed his name from Monty to Monet Cook. That was funny, and I think everyone immediately knew that it was a prank of some sort. Or, again, I'm using that word prank. Everyone knew it was a joke of some sort. I saw one today where Nathan Fillion, I don't know whether he did it himself or someone else put it up, but there was a post saying that Nathan Fillion has announced that for this new Firefly animated show they've announced, they're going to have Nicolas Cage do the voice of Shepherd Book, because Ron Glass sadly passed away a number of years ago. So I mean, yeah. So people want new information about that that project, and they're looking to the internet for it. So put something out there that's just patently ridiculous, and April Fools. One of my favorites, my favorite April Fool's gags, that's probably the word I want to use most, is gag. See, we've got some good stuff going on in the chat. I want to look at that in a second. I'm going to finish my thought first. One of my favorites all time was the year that Sports Illustrated worked with the writer George Plimpton to... they had an issue that was published on April 1st, or that was the date on the magazine, and it was during spring training, or the articles were about what was going on during Major League spring training, and this was 1983 or 84, and the thing was that the Mets, the New York Mets, had a pitcher who could throw the ball 115 miles an hour, and he was, but he didn't come out of the minor leagues or college baseball. He was just this weird kind of hippie dude who had been spending time in Tibet and perfected the art of the pitch while herding llamas or herding yaks and throwing rocks to keep the snow leopards and yeti away from the yaks. And he was unerringly accurate and could throw the ball 115 miles an hour. His name was Sid Finch, and they actually went to spring training at the Mets camp and did a bunch of they'd set up a closed area behind a tent that people couldn't see, and they had this guy who was playing Sid Finch. It was this really weird, gangly looking guy with gigantic feet, which they were saying in the article, saying that they thought that had a lot to do with why he could do this. It helped him balance, and he could lean further back and get a better angle on what he was throwing. It was hilarious, and there was no clue that it wasn't true. It was just an article that ran in Sports Illustrated, except that if you took the first letters of each paragraph on the first page or two, I don't think it ran the whole article. But if you took the first letters of each paragraph over it, it basically said April Fool's Day, and that's how you knew. And then they announced it. Of course, the next day they announced it was a gag, and a lot of people freaked out about it. But I mean, that's the kind of harmless, fun thing that I enjoy for an April Fool's Day gag. As it turns out, Plimpton then went on to write a novel called The Curious Case of Sid Finch, which is basically it was like a tell-all book, as if that had been real, and the real story of what happened with Sid Finch. The article was sold as just a regular article. They didn't give any hint that it was fiction. The book was a novel, right? It was very clearly listed as fiction, and it referenced the April Fool's Day gag. It was a fun novel too. It's a good book. If you ever get a chance, I recommend it. The Curious Case of Sid Finch by George Plimpton. All right, let's see what's going on here in the chat. April Fool's joke that got me, says Michael in chat. Today, I did to myself. I went to the store for soda and milk. Tune in line for 10 minutes before I realized that I'd forgotten my wallet. I guess that's supposed to be stood in line. That's not a fun April Fool's joke. But you did pull it on yourself. Becky says, my favorite is the BBC documentary in quotes, from 1957, before people were as familiar with spaghetti as they are now. Spaghetti grows on trees. Was that 57? Didn't someone do that in the 70s? I remember that in the 70s. Maybe they were just playing back on. It wasn't BBC. Someone must have taken that idea and redone it. I've seen at least one other version of that. But yeah, that's great. And Becky in the Facebook chat has a link to the YouTube video of it. Michael says he met Ron Glass when he visited the coffee house he worked in Laguna Beach. Oh, Laguna Beach, very nice. I never met Ron Glass, but my mom was a big Barney Miller fan. She didn't watch a lot of TV, but that was something she made time for. We kids, on the other hand, watched a lot of TV. And so when she wanted to watch something, that's what went on. We did not have a bunch of different TVs in our house growing up. But as a result, I watched Barney Miller. Even though it was probably a little... I mean, in the early seasons, I was a little young for it. But that's a really good show. And Ron Glass was terrific as Detective Harris. I remember when he showed up in... this needs to be a little darker. When he showed up... not that dark. In in Firefly, I mean, I hadn't seen him do anything since Barney Miller. So I was really pleased to see him. There we go. Very sad that he passed away. I'm sure that he was working all that time, but I never saw anything that he did other than Barney Miller and Firefly. So he's got a very, very high percentage of awesome in my book. Paizo's April Fools was a press release that they were buying D&D from Hasbro. This year? Again? I've seen over the years I've seen a number of different companies and groups have uh, their April Fools Day gag be that they're buying D&D from Hasbro. That's a repeating one. My. Here we go. I want to get the nails too. I didn't do that. I'd left those nails on this hand blank. I was thinking maybe I'd come back with a different color or something, but that's another. This is another case where I thought better of it because although it seems important, zoomed in this big, and I could go in and put more detail in. The fact of the matter is, in the final picture we can see over here, they're pretty small, and you're not going to see those details. So best not to put in things that are just for me. Mainly because we'll run across that problem I talk about all the time: is you don't want to confuse the reader or the viewer. You don't want to put anything in they're not immediately going to understand. And if I came in and started putting details on those nails, chances are pretty good they'd wind up being somewhat confusing. Go. What else have we got in the chat here? So originally, this is a spaghetti thing. Originally, 1957 in Switzerland. All right, I believe you, and I'm not 100% sure that my memory is right, but maybe my memory is of something in the 70s where they were re-showing that original one. And of course, then it was used as a premise for some spaghetti commercials in the 80s, I think. One of the big pasta companies did some commercials where they talked about a family that had the pasta orchard, and they showed pictures of them harvesting. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about. It says you met him just before 2000. All right. Houston just did their first shift change. You know, a few years back, I was a guest at Comic Palooza in Houston. And one of the things that they did, the people that organize it are pretty well connected with, there's a lot of NASA people who are also big geeks. lo and behold. And so there, a lot of them involved with the convention. And so one of the um, perks as a guest was that we got a tour of uh, the Johnson Space Center, and got taken around to see a whole bunch of stuff, and I got to see the Artemis capsule while they were still working on it. This is before COVID. Um, Somewhere I've got photos of me standing next to it, of one of the um, mock-ups of the Artemis that they were building. That blue should be darker. Again, I'm zooming out, so up close that darkness of blue is right, but when I zoom out, it becomes really hard to see any difference at all. So again, the point is to make it clear to the viewer what I'm doing. Everything should be clear. Yeah, so I got to go um, to Houston. I got to see the International Space Station's mission control, um, very much like the one they were showing on the screen today, the Artemis's mission control. Um, it was fantastic. That was a really great tour, and part of what made it great was again, because I was a guest, the people that I went on the tour with. I went on the tour with um, David Prowse, the guy who played Chewbacca, um, and a few other big name folks. Got to see an Apollo rocket. They had the whole thing was on its side in basically a barn that was built. It was a gigantic building. It was just the rocket. It was huge, huge. Um, yeah, but that was fantastic. Getting to go to the space center. We had a, a someone who had spent time on the space station was our tour guide, an astronaut who had spent some number of months up there. I don't remember. We got a special presentation by a couple of different astronauts, just giving us space, a, a broad kind of things you might want to know, and you can ask an astronaut. It was an AMA with an astronaut. It was great. Yeah, it's good color there. Michael says, "Be an astronaut was the first thing he can remember wanting to be growing up." Yeah, yeah. I remember when I was growing up, the toy, the boys' toy of the era was still GI Joe. The 6 inch, yeah, 6 inch, 12 inch. I think it was 8 inch, 8 inch, probably an 8 inch. I don't remember how big they were. Whatever the large size GI Joe was, I think they were 8 inch. And they had some really great uh, accessories that you could buy for the GI Joes, and one of them was basically an Apollo space capsule or a Gemini space capsule. Um, my brother had that one, uh, and I will admit to being a little jealous. So, basically, my parents would buy one for me and one for him and tell us that we had to share. But being siblings, we basically only played with our own, and we didn't want to let our other sibling use ours. It was ours. So I'm sure he did let me use the uh, space capsule one because he was a good guy. Still is a great guy, my brother. Um, but that was his. I had the headquarters, which was also super cool, and I think that was the same year that I got the headquarters. I think he got um, the space capsule one. Here we go. This is looking good. Coming together quickly. I knew that once we finished the flats, well, I'll tell you that doing the shading on the main characters was a little more time consuming than this. This again because this is a background character and because there's not a lot of different colors to detail. It's the fur and the bandages. It's coming together very quickly. There we go. It's looking good. Now, what do I need for him? I need to get that eyebrow color back. We can do that over here. I haven't done either of the noses. I need to do them. Gotta do that tongue. There we go. And then, his bandages need to get done. It might actually be done. I told you this could go quick. Then we'll be working on the background. See what's going on in the chat here. You had the 11-inch G.I. Joe astronaut doll too. Okay, so 11-inch. There you go. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that capsule was really cool. I haven't done his feet. His feet need a little shading too. Same as the hands. There we go. I think that might be it for the shading. Michael says, G.I. Joes were 11 inches. Barbie was 12. So she was Nicole Kidman to Keith Urban, proportionally. All right, so turn back on the others and see how we're looking. All right, so that's that is the characters basically done. I may go in and add a little extra after we get the background in, but I think just looking at this, it's I think that's it. I think those are looking good. All right, so how am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to add a new sketch layer. In fact, I will add it down here. See now, layer 16 put up. I'm going to put it behind all the other sketch layers. Not that it really matters, but we'll go back and grab the blue. And I'm going to look at this here. Let's look at it large again. So really, all we have is, and this is supposedly in the adventure, it's set in some kind of uh, um, ancient temple structure. I don't remember whether it was actually a pyramid or something else, but it's some stone temple structure, and we don't really see a lot of detail here. There, we've got a couple of parallel lines to indicate changes in the structure. There's something up here at the top, but even in that picture, we can't see what it is at all. I don't know that we're going to need to see it at all in this. So really what we need, let me make sure I'm on the right layer. Yeah. So really, all we really need is a couple of roughly parallel lines. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to make sure I draw and hold so we get an actual straight line. But so the main thing I'm thinking is the way they go behind. Looking at this is the way they go behind the characters at an oblique angle to create that askew camera view. Now, the main thing I need to worry about with these is where they intersect with different parts of the I might want to move the gun because I like the way this is laying out. I don't love the way the gun is crossing behind everything. So if I come over to him, so right now what is listed there under the layers as him are all the different layers: the lines layer, the flat color, and the highlights color. But if I grab the whole thing, the whole group, I can move them all together. So I'm going to grab the gun and shift it over a little. I'm going to move it up there, showing more of the claw and letting that background line not creating an unnecessary tangent with the background line. I like that. All right. I'll tell you one thing though. It's not that far off from where it was before. It's just up a little. But I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that fully completed gun in case I want to use it later. So, I'm going to what am I doing here? I'm going to, come on, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. Let me see what that does. I'm not sure what this is going to do. So I'm going to look here. Look inside. Did it paste it? I don't see where it pasted it. Interesting. Maybe it won't let me do multiple layers at once. If I wanted to flatten them, I could, but I don't want to flatten it. Hey, never mind. I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna take a chance that I don't really need that little bit of the gun that I'm giving up. I'm just gonna move it up there like that. All right. So, having done that, now I can come back to my sketch layer. It's not just going to be those two lines, but that's a lot of it. So it's those two lines and line coming down there. Well, it's over by the arm over here, so let's do it there too. There we go. So at that angle, what I'm really doing is creating the idea like that's supposed to be straight up and down on the wall, right? If this shows that we're at a weird angle. It's not a lot to give that message, but trust me, that's what your brain's telling you when you're looking at this. I'm going to create another whole new layer so I can do something else here. I am, by going down like this, I'm telling you that this is the up and down, and because that's going like that, this tells you that the wall, it just gives you the perspective. Okay, trust me on it. By creating those lines around there, it's creating, your brain is filling in what it knows is likely also going on, and therefore it's creating it will create, hopefully, the feeling that this is a wall that we're looking at from a strange angle. I think I might add one more line down here. Now, I want this to be parallel to these two lines. So again, like this is a part of the wall that we can't see, or that we don't see in the main one, but it's helping to create that feeling. Okay. Having said all that, let's turn off all those and let's come on. There we go. There's not much there right now, but it's never going to be that much anyway. So I'm looking here, so I want to put in another line on each of these. And I'm going to draw this a little, give it a little more texture. And then we're going to put in some, well, I guess I'm going to need to know where they are in order to do this. So I'm going to put some cracks in to make the whole thing feel, give it the same feeling it has in the background by giving it some texture. You make it not just parallel lines, but feel like a stone wall behind all this. Not too much detail, just a little bit. And if I start giving it too much detail, it's going to start looking, drawing too much attention on its own. Alright, let's turn them off again and see what I did. Now I see over here, this line I added. This line here I added because these ones were falling behind him and couldn't be seen. So I'm changing the angle somewhat on the lines at the bottom. And it felt right, and it felt like it matched up right. So I can come here and connect that to there. And that is the angle that we're going to use for both of them. There. Now, I guess so if I pull back and we look at it, you can see that, yeah, it looks kind of like a wall. Now, there's a lot of open space, but we know that's filled with the other characters. So I just need to come back and create a new layer and grab the black color to start. And so say, given how you have to change the picture to fit it. Yeah, and I talked about that last week, right? That's one of the things I do in these. I'm taking something from a certain uh, ratio and I'm fitting it into a square. Usually I'm taking tall, thin drawings that are covers of books. This time I'm taking one which is a short, wide drawing, but I'm making it fit in a square, and that's part of the adaptation that I do to make sure I'm not just copying what the original artist did. I'm interpreting it. But yes, thank you for So one of the things I have to do is look at what the purpose was in the original, and try and create something that fulfills that same purpose in the new version. This is going to come together pretty quickly, I think, which I think means that we are going to finish the drawing tonight. So hooray for that. Whoops. What happened there? For some reason, it lost my computer lost. Let me pull myself out of here. For some reason, my computer lost the its connection to the iPad. I don't know why that happened. Oops, April Fools. Good job. Good job, iPad. You got me on an April Fools. All right. Why are you not mirroring? Huh. Let's try it again. Tech problems. Meh. All right. So it says it's doing it, and yet for some reason, it's not. Hmm. Hmm. Turn that off. Turn that on again. So I'm trying things. You can't. I couldn't possibly explain what it is I'm doing. Not because it's beyond your understanding, because I don't have the vocabulary to describe what I'm doing here. Hmm. All right. Tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to chat for a bit while I am going to take my iPad and I'm going to reboot my iPad, because that's the simplest thing to do. If I wind up needing to reboot my computer, I've got to stop the stream, and we don't want that. But I can reboot the iPad while we chat. Um, like I said, they just showed the separation from the booster live from the outside. Yeah, you know what? You were saying that the graphics on the computer graphics weren't that impressive. During the live launch, uh, several of the at several moments they did show from cameras external on the rocket, and as so often happens, right? It's a rocket going at several uh, thousand miles an hour. the Sometimes that interferes and you get a shaky cam kind of view, or the just um, the connection isn't good. There we go. Reboot that. See if this works. And I want to do this. Are you having fun? Okay, there we go. It's back. And I can open this and open this. Open this, and we're back where we were, and I'll come back to my button here, and there it is. We're back again. David says, today's stand brings us the description of his picture via the medium of mime. It's not mime, it's interpretive dance. You've made it in time, Cindy, though it's not especially exciting. You came while I was having some technical difficulties, and now you get to see me drawing a wall. But in a few minutes, we should be back to where it's looking a little more impressive. Now, again, as I was saying before, the key here is to put in enough detail so that it reads right in the background of the picture, but not so much that it draws too much attention to itself. Well, here, I guess one of the things I can say while I'm doing this, another technical difficulty which has been brought to my attention for tomorrow is that my internet service provider is going to be doing work on their lines all day tomorrow, and all they've told me is that I will lose service for some period of time tomorrow, and they will try to get it back within the same day. Usually, they do. Like it usually turns out to only be an hour or two, and they're starting in the morning. But having said that, if it is taking them longer, it may interfere with my ability to do the random encounter show tomorrow. So if I don't show up tomorrow evening, it's not that I have forgotten about you all, or that I am not doing a show, or wasn't planning on doing a show. It's because my internet service, my internet is down. All right, so let's turn off the sketch and see that that looks okay there. Let's turn on our characters and see that that looks okay there. All right, so now let's go. So just kind of in a line sense, that creates what we wanted to. Let's go and do some coloring on this layer. Turn them off again. Should I? I'm not sure about that. So the color needs to be in needs to work in relation to them. So I'm going to group that, and this new group is going to be just background. So let's see. So the whole thing is kind of purplish. So we're going to start in the purple range. And I think that this is roughly the purple that no, that's way too dark. That's a little light. That's about right. And then that's a weird kind of gray, purplish gray for the top. Yeah. All right, and I'm going to add that at the bottom too, which is not in the original drawing, but all right. So having done that, now I can take the characters out and finish this. Well, and take the next step. So again, because this is such a linear, rather than have details, it's just a bunch of lines. It's going to be pretty quick to do. Phew, look at that. All right, I'm not just going to leave it that flat. Again, we can see the background does have some texture on it. So I'm going to put some, in fact, I'm going to put a little extra on there. But we will, so kind of like with the characters, I've got a flat color level, and then I'm going to add a whole new level where I'm going to put these extra bits on. There we go. All right, so I want to give the idea that these parallel lines at the top and bottom are raised ridges. So I need to give them cast shadows the same way I do the characters. I'll tell you, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to make the brush wider. Yeah. And then I'm going to make it easy on myself by just drawing a straight line like I did before, letting it sit. And there we go. Make it thinner. Do the same thing up top. And you see how that gives it a feeling of being just a little three-dimensional? Let us know on Thursday via chat if you can. Yes, if I am able to get to Thursday, I'll let you know, Michael. And then for the underside, I'm going to do the same thing. Darker than that. Yeah, I don't see. Just adding these things. Oops. Just adding these things really takes it from seeming just as lines to feeling like it's got some kind of purpose. Now, the other thing that I do with a lot of these that I don't talk about is do a little gradation. Now, Procreate doesn't do gradation the same way that Photoshop and a lot of the other programs do. In fact, you gotta fudge it. You gotta figure out how to get the effects you want. And the one that I've settled on most is using what's called an effect called Gaussian blur. I don't know why it's called that. I never bothered to look it up. I just know it is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a space of that solid black, and I'm going to go to the Gaussian blur and then blur it so that it's all right. Get the effect so that it's darker in the corner with more shadows that lighten as they get towards the end. All right, I'm going to undo that because I want to put one over here too. Oops. And under here. Now when I do the same thing, they're all going to blur out, but it's going to seem like it's going to seem like there's some darker area that is getting lighter near where the characters are. Not loving how this is working, so I'm going to move it around a little. There we go. There we go. Now, you could, depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I'll just erase it, go back, erase it, draw a different shape until I get it right. And sometimes, like I'm doing here, I know that I can grab a section of the layer and just move it around a little to get the effect, to move the effect where I want it to be. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing on a different layer, because if I do the Gaussian blur on another layer, or if I use the same layer and then use the blur again, it will further blur what's already there. So we're on a new layer, and I want to do that. Right? Let's check it out. Do I want that to be underneath there? I think I do. I think in this case usually I want my blurs to be over all the other colors, but in this case I want it to be under those shadow lines. And then one more kind of up here. Alright, and then what happens if I drop the characters back in one more time? Okay, alright, that's looking okay. Now there's a little bit more of the come on. Why are you? Alright. So it's looking okay. But it's not looking exactly the way I want it to. There's still a few more things that I want to do. Cindy says Gaussian Blur is an awesome name for a superhero. I may have to use that in my next game. All right. So that's good. But often you'll see that I take the backgrounds and take the black lines. So right now, I want to change that black line. It's too black. It's too direct. It's taking away from the characters. So I'm going to I turned on Alpha Lock. Anyone remember what Alpha Lock does? I've talked about this before. Alpha Lock makes it so that you can only draw where you have already drawn on that layer. And so I'm going to fill the whole layer, but it's only going to fill where I've drawn. So it's going to take all those black lines in the background right now, look at the lines of the wall, and it's going to fill them with gray, with a purple line instead of black. It immediately drops them back and creates some feeling that they are more in the background. Oh, goodness gracious. I didn't notice. I created a stupid tangent line there. How am I going to fix that? How am I going to fix that? Well, I'll worry about fixing that in a minute. All right. In fact, no, I'm going to take this whole background section and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to grab the group and I'm going to duplicate it. And I have two backgrounds. I'm going to turn one off. I'm going to take the other one and I'm going to flatten it. So now instead of all those layers, all I've got is one layer which turns the whole background on and off. And I can now grab it, and if I make it a little bigger like this, I get rid of that tangent, and I can make it really big down there, but I think that this is about right. Get rid of that tangent, keep the placement of the stuff on the top where I want it, and that's looking good. Okay, good. Now the other thing I want to do, so I want to drop this even a little more back. Back in the background. Oh. Alright, undo that. Undo that. I thought that was going to work, and it didn't work. I kind of want to keep created. I'm going to use red so it's easy to see. I kind of want to keep this here while I move this here. which is more difficult. In a lot of ways, it would be redrawing the whole thing. But it doesn't need to be. All right. Gonna delete this multiplied one and come back to the one with the multiple layers. Oh, so much craziness. All right. Let's see. I'm going to stop having the alpha lock there. I want to grab this and copy and paste it. So now that has created a new section that is just that small corner. How am I going to show that to you? If I turn everything else off, here you can see that all the rest of the lines have gone, but that one down in the corner is still there because I created a new section with just that. Turn those back on, and I'm going to turn that off. And in our main section, I'm going to erase that. There we go. And now, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Now I've just made it slightly more difficult on myself. Okay. So when I duplicate the background section, duplicate it. I do that because now I'm saving it as it was. So even if I completely screw it up, I can go back to the original and not and start again. But I can, instead of flattening the whole thing, I'm going to flatten just everything in there except that copied from section. I'm going to group those and flatten those. And then I can go back and do what I did before. Move that. But you see that part in the corner that I wanted to keep? We're getting a keep. And it stays there. Look at that. That's what I wanted. And I think that does that does capture what I want out of that. Now I'm going to stop for a second and just look at it. And I'm going to say that this could be good. This could be it. But I'm going to try something that we may not end up keeping. I'm going to, in the baboons layer, I'm going to create it, in the baboons group, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to lock the other layers in here so that I don't wind up doing anything to them. But in this layer, turn off them, I'm going to And we're going to come back here and have a very, very dark purple, since that's the background color we're working with. I don't know. I'm thinking that maybe I want to make right now, I look at the lines there on the baboons. I had already last week, when I was doing the inking, dropped their line color from black to a brown so that they would seem further back than the main characters. I'm wondering if I should make it a dark purple instead of the brown to help with that. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you what I am sure of. I'm going to uh, hmm. I don't use this feature a lot. No. No, undo that. I guess I'm going to have to do it the difficult way. I was hoping to do this in a way that would make it easier on myself. But what I'm doing here is I want to create a really, really dark shadow. And the way I'm going to do it is to create... I want to do the mask because it would save me from this having to trace along the edge. I could do something akin to Alpha Lock, where it would only allow me to draw on things that were going on in the other layer. And I'm sure there's a way I could have done that. Like I say, I don't use the mask, either of the mask features on Procreate a lot. And often, like right now, it's just easier to do the dumb manual way than to go and figure out how to do it right. All right. So I want to do that. I want to do this. Now you say, Stan, oh my God, that's some big fat... You're blocking out what you've done already. How is that helpful? Any guess? Any guess? I'm going to drop the opacity on it so that we can see through it. And that way I'll be able to keep all the details that I've already drawn, but there will be an extra shadow cast on top of them. Michael got it. Michael got it. All right, so if I now take the opacity on this layer and I drop it a lot, right? Let's see, we can get down to any kind of amount of dark shadow that I want. I think that really is going to help. Let's look at that by putting him back up there. I guess we can't see a lot of it, but it does help. I think it's going to help more on the guy behind her. So let's go here and we'll do the same thing. Again, I want Some of that shadowy feeling that they've got here. Let's see, like that. There we go. There, I think that's going to give him in particular a nice shadowy feeling. So let's drop the opacity again and see what happens. Looking pretty good. Drop the characters in front of them. Yeah, 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 that's what I was looking for. Feel like the background could I think this. Oop! Undo that. Undo that. Undo that. Yeah. I think we're gonna add just a little more Gaussian blur in this lower left side. A little more than that. There. There. I think that's it. I see Cindy and Michael are coming up with a superhero pair in chat. Michael, I think that you should write that up and post it in the think tank, in the Green Ronin think tank. Let's see. Things I'm looking at that I want to monkey with, if you'll pardon the pun. I want to come in here. I want that eye to still stand out where the shot. There we go. Oh, look at that. So much nicer. There we go. I think it's done. Yes. Oh, yes. Definitely with Cindy's approval. I think that you should give. Maybe it's a code sign credit. Just anyway, you know what I'm saying. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to make trouble and strife. All right, things I want to fool around with. I want to unlock this. I want to turn off the beb. Well, come over here. Yeah. By doing things quickly, I've made things a little more difficult for myself. But c'est la vie. You know what? And in fact, it is going to be very boring. So I think I'm going to look at this all. And I'm going to say I'm done. I'm going to tweak it a little more, but this is basically it. I think we're done here. We've got the finished piece. I'm going to come up to the. Which layer should I put my signature on? Maybe I put it above everything else. It's its own layer. All right. I think that I want the signature to be also in a purple color. A light purple color. I'm going to come down here to the lower left, and we're going to put a stand there in the corner. And we're going to say that this is our finished drawing for the Last Library cartoon homage. And I will, of course, post this to the newsletter Monday. Yeah, it'll go up Monday. But having said that, we're not necessarily done for tonight for what we're going to do, because I am going to yeah, we are done, because I realize this is going to be a little more difficult than it usually is. What I was going to do is say, well, let's now take this and turn it into the coloring book image, which I will also share next week. So I'll take this, I'll make some tweaks, finish it up, and also make a coloring book version of it to post for there. all of that will go. So here, have one last good look. Here we go. Thank you for hanging out with me while we did it. It took 2 weeks of work in progress, but we got the final drawing done. Chris Andrews says, have the drawing on my desk by Monday. Okay, J. Jonah Jameson, you got it, buddy. I'm just noticing what you said above that, Chris. As the mummy would say, that's a wrap. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I will have the finished piece, and I'm going to put it in the newsletter. I'm also going to have a coloring book image of this. I'm going to release that for you guys. Of course, when I say the newsletter, I mean our free Substack, 50yearsinthedungeon.substack.com, which, if you're watching this show, you really should belong to it. I tell you what I put in there. I put the update. When I finish something, you get to see it first. When I finish a sketch, I send you the sketch. You can get that in your email. You can download it. You can put it on your computer. You can do whatever you want with it. When I do the coloring versions, it goes there. Announce who's going to be the guest next week. Have a post with a link when after the show's done, so you can find it if you missed it live. That's it. There's nothing else going on there, and it's free. Of course, there is a paid level. If you want to support the show, I encourage you to do that. But all the cool stuff there is for free. It's only for subscribers. You have to subscribe, but it's free. So, please, 50yearsinthedungeon.substack.com. Also, if you want to get deeper involved in what's going on in the broader Staniverse, you might want to become a member of my Patreon community, patreon.com/Stanex, STANNEX. Yeah, a lot of the same things that you get in the newsletter. And there's also a free level of that, too. A lot of the stuff that's in the newsletter also appears on the Patreon, but more does. All the stuff I do for Random Encounters shows up there. All the stuff I draw, any Damn It Owen or other random drawings I do that are released publicly, they end up there. Also, occasionally, random bits of Stan trivia, stories, or my deviled egg recipe, or other fun things. So again, there is a free level which you can join and just get the stuff that comes to people in the free level. There are a couple of different paid levels. At the highest paid level, I send out stickers several times a year, 4 or 5 times a year. It's a quarterly sticker, but it's 4 or 5 times a year I'll send out a sticker to people at that level, and other niceties, little things that you get that, just for me to say thank you for being a patron of my arts, as it were. So yeah, check it out. Like I say, come in, join for free. Why wouldn't you get the free stuff? That's what I'm saying. If you like this, you've been watching for an hour and 45 minutes, watching me draw, listening to me ramble, why wouldn't you sign up for the cool free stuff? I don't know. But who am I to say? You have your reasons. You do what's good for you. I will be back, hopefully, tomorrow. As I said earlier in the show, I've been warned by my internet service provider that they will be doing repairs and that I will be without internet connection for some period of time tomorrow. I have no control over that. If it runs into the early evening, then there will be no Random Encounters. I will just not show up because I won't have internet. But they're supposed to start early in the morning, and the messaging they're giving me makes me think that by evening they'll be done. But I have no control over that. I just want you folks to know. So thank you all for joining me. I've had a good time. I hope you have too. We finished a drawing Next week, as things stand, I'll be back with another work in progress, but it'll be a whole new piece. That should be exciting. We'll take another drawing and uh, work on it a little together. Sound like fun? It does to me. I'll see if I can get a co-host for that one, just for the fun chatting aspect. If there's anyone in particular you think I should have back on as a co-host, drop it in a comment. Oh, you know what? Yeah, give this video a like, give it a thumbs up or a heart, and when it's done, it'd be great if you could leave a comment. I know that you folks who are in live chat right now have been commenting your hearts out, but for YouTube, which is where my archives are and all that, they measure things by activity that it gets when it's in the replay mode. So, if you could do me a little solid, leave a comment on this video when we're done. All right. Hopefully be back tomorrow and see you then. Until then, take care, everyone.